There comes a point in every person's life when the hardest decision is not whether to move forward, but whether to move forward without the people you expected to be beside you. It is one of the greatest emotional tests because human nature longs for companionship, encouragement, and certainty. We imagine success as a shared journey, believing that those who begin with us will remain until the end. Yet life follows a different path, except that not everyone is meant to walk your entire journey, because one of the greatest misunderstandings in life is believing that every person who enters your story is supposed to remain until the final chapter. Human nature naturally forms attachments. When people support you, encourage you, or share important moments with you, it feels natural to imagine they will always be there. We build expectations around friendships, relationships, partnerships, and shared dreams, believing that loyalty always means permanence. Yet life rarely follows such predictable patterns. People grow in different directions, priorities change, circumstances evolve. Some individuals leave because they have fulfilled the purpose they were meant to serve in your life, while others leave because your paths no longer lead toward the same destination. This reality can feel painful because the mind often interprets endings as personal rejection. It begins asking questions that create unnecessary suffering. Was I not enough? Did I fail? Could I have done something differently? While self-reflection is valuable, constantly blaming yourself for every ending prevents you from recognizing an important truth. Not every departure is caused by failure. Some relationships simply reach the point where they can no longer continue without preventing both people from becoming who they are meant to become. Human psychology naturally resists loss because familiarity creates comfort. Even unhealthy relationships can feel difficult to leave because they provide a sense of certainty. This is why many people remain emotionally attached to individuals who have already stopped investing in the relationship. They continue chasing conversations that no longer exist, waiting for effort that never returns, and hoping that the past will somehow recreate itself. In doing so, they pause their own growth while life continues moving forward. Accepting that not everyone is meant to stay is not an act of bitterness. It is an act of emotional maturity. It means appreciating what someone contributed to your life without demanding that they remain forever. Some people teach you confidence. Others teach you patience. Some inspire your dreams, while others reveal your boundaries. Every meaningful connection leaves behind something valuable, even if the relationship itself does not last. Once you understand this, you stop measuring relationships only by their duration and begin appreciating the lessons they provided. This mindset also changes the way you view yourself. You stop chasing people who have already chosen distance and begin investing your energy in becoming a stronger, wiser person. Relationships become healthier because they are built on mutual choice instead of emotional dependence. Professionally, you become more adaptable because you understand that teams, opportunities, and partnerships naturally change over time. Personally, you develop resilience because your identity is no longer dependent on who remains beside you. You discover that while companionship enriches life, your purpose cannot depend upon someone else's presence. Every time you continue moving forward after someone leaves, you prove to yourself that your future is larger than your disappointment. Over time, gratitude replaces resentment because you realize that every person who entered your life, whether for a season or a lifetime, played a role in shaping your character. Some walked beside you to encourage your beginning. Others challenged you to become stronger. A few left so you would finally discover your own strength. By accepting that not everyone is meant to walk your entire journey, you free yourself from clinging to closed chapters and create space for new experiences, healthier relationships, deeper wisdom, and the confidence to continue your path with peace instead of regret. Your greatest strength is built during seasons of solitude because solitude removes every distraction that prevents you from meeting your true self. Human nature naturally seeks companionship, encouragement, and the comfort of belonging. There is nothing wrong with valuing relationships, but many people become so dependent on constant connection that they never discover who they are without the influence of others. They define themselves through the expectations of friends, family, colleagues, or society. They adjust their opinions to avoid disagreement, change their behavior to gain approval, and shape their identity around acceptance instead of authenticity. As a result, they may spend years surrounded by people while remaining strangers to themselves. Solitude interrupts this pattern. It creates space where the noise of outside opinions begins to fade, leaving only your thoughts, your habits, and your decisions. At first, this silence can feel uncomfortable because it forces you to confront questions that distraction has allowed you to avoid. What kind of person are you becoming? What fears continue controlling your choices? Which habits are helping you grow, and which ones are quietly holding you back? Human psychology often resists these questions because honest self-examination requires responsibility instead of excuses. Yet this discomfort is where genuine strength begins. Every meaningful transformation starts with the courage to see yourself clearly. During seasons of solitude, you also learn that discipline is not something created by public recognition. It is built through private consistency. Waking up early to pursue your goals when nobody expects it, reading to expand your knowledge without seeking praise, exercising when there is no audience, and continuing your work despite slow progress are quiet decisions that gradually reshape your character. These moments rarely receive applause, yet they create the foundation for every visible success that follows. Human nature is drawn to immediate rewards, but solitude teaches patience. It reminds you that not every valuable effort produces instant results. A tree develops deep roots long before anyone admires its height, and in the same way, your confidence, resilience, and wisdom are strengthened long before others recognize the changes taking place within you. Solitude also teaches emotional independence. Instead of depending on constant reassurance, you begin trusting your own judgment. You learn to solve problems without immediately seeking rescue, to make difficult decisions according to your values rather than public opinion, and to remain calm even when no one is available to encourage you. This process strengthens your inner stability because your confidence becomes rooted in experience rather than approval. Relationships improve as a result because you stop expecting others to complete you emotionally. Instead, you bring a stronger and more balanced version of yourself into every connection. Professionally, solitude allows uninterrupted focus, helping you master skills that distracted people rarely develop. Personally, it gives you the opportunity to heal from disappointment, understand your emotions, and rebuild your sense of purpose without rushing the process. Over time, what once felt like loneliness becomes one of your greatest teachers. You begin appreciating silence because it sharpens your thinking, values discipline because it creates lasting progress, and embraces challenges because they reveal strengths you never knew existed. Looking back, you often realize that the periods you once feared most became the seasons that prepared you for your greatest opportunities. By embracing solitude instead of escaping it, you discover that your strongest character, deepest confidence, and greatest resilience are not built in moments of comfort or constant company, but in the quiet seasons when life gives you the opportunity to grow into the person you were always capable of becoming. Stop waiting for people who have already stopped moving, because one of the greatest ways people lose years of their lives is by refusing to accept that not everyone is willing to continue the journey with them. Human nature naturally forms emotional attachments. We remember shared experiences, old promises, and the moments when someone stood beside us during difficult times. Those memories become powerful, making it difficult to recognize when a relationship, partnership, or friendship has quietly reached its end. Instead of accepting reality, many people remain emotionally tied to a version of the relationship that no longer exists. They continue waiting for messages that never arrive, effort that is never returned, and commitment that has already disappeared. While they wait, life continues moving forward without them. Time does not pause because someone else has chosen a different path. Every day spent waiting for someone who has already stopped walking beside you is a day taken away from your own growth. Human psychology often confuses loyalty with attachment. Loyalty is valuable when it exists on both sides. It is built on mutual respect, shared effort, and consistent commitment. Attachment, however, often continues even when the relationship has become one-sided. You begin making excuses for behavior that repeatedly hurts you. You convince yourself that if you become more patient, more understanding, or more available, everything will eventually return to the way it once was. Unfortunately, relationships cannot survive through the effort of only one person. Progress requires two people choosing to move in the same direction. When one person has already decided to stop investing, no amount of chasing can recreate genuine commitment. Accepting this truth is painful because it requires letting go of hope that has become comfortable. Yet refusing to accept it creates even greater pain by keeping you trapped between the past and the future. Every meaningful journey demands that you continue walking, even when others choose to remain behind. This principle applies far beyond relationships. You may have friends who stopped pursuing their dreams years ago. They become comfortable with excuses, routine, and fear of change. They criticize your ambition because your progress reminds them of the risks they no longer wish to take. If you spend your life waiting for everyone to become ready, you may never begin the life you were meant to build. Human nature seeks belonging, but belonging should never require abandoning your purpose. The strongest individuals understand that growth sometimes creates distance, not because they believe they are better than others, but because different choices naturally lead to different destinations. As you continue learning, improving, and developing discipline, some people will celebrate your growth while others will quietly drift away. Neither response should determine your direction. Your responsibility is not to carry people who refuse to move. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to your own values and continue becoming the person you are capable of becoming. Relationships that are meant to grow with you will adapt, communicate, and invest alongside you. Those that cannot survive your growth will naturally fade, making room for healthier connections built on shared respect rather than shared comfort. By choosing to stop waiting for people who have already stopped moving, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your focus. You stop measuring your future by someone else's willingness to change and begin creating momentum through your own consistent actions. In doing so, you discover that the greatest act of loyalty is not remaining trapped in yesterday, but having the courage to honor your own path, embrace new opportunities, and keep moving forward even when the road becomes quieter than you expected. Protect your direction more than your need for company, because the path you choose will shape your future far more than the number of people walking beside you. Human nature naturally desires connection. We enjoy feeling understood, accepted, and included. Throughout life, we are encouraged to build relationships, create friendships, and become part of groups that provide comfort and security. These are valuable parts of a meaningful life, but they become dangerous when the desire for companionship becomes stronger than the commitment to your purpose. Many people quietly abandon their dreams, lower their standards, or change their values simply to avoid feeling alone. They remain in environments that no longer inspire growth because leaving would require stepping into uncertainty without familiar faces beside them. Over time, they trade their future for temporary comfort, believing that staying connected is more important than continuing to grow. The cost of this decision is often invisible at first. Days pass normally, routines remain familiar, and life appears stable from the outside. Yet inside, frustration begins to grow because deep down you recognize that you are moving away from the person you could become. Human psychology often mistakes belonging for fulfillment, but they are not the same. You can belong to a group that limits your potential just as easily as you can belong to one that encourages it. The question is not whether people accept you. The question is whether the direction you are following is leading you toward the life you truly want. Your direction is determined by your daily choices, your habits, your values, and the standards you refuse to compromise. Every decision either moves you closer to your purpose or further away from it. This is why protecting your direction requires courage. There will be moments when people question your decisions because they do not understand your vision. Some may encourage you to settle because your ambition makes them uncomfortable. Others may ask you to slow down because your growth reminds them of the changes they have avoided. If your greatest priority is keeping everyone happy, you will eventually become disconnected from yourself. Real confidence comes from knowing where you are going and refusing to abandon that path simply to gain temporary approval. This does not mean isolating yourself or rejecting meaningful relationships. It means choosing relationships that respect your growth instead of resisting it. The right people will challenge you to become stronger, celebrate your progress without jealousy, and remain supportive even when your journey looks different from theirs. They will never ask you to sacrifice your integrity just to maintain their comfort. Protecting your direction also requires learning to say no. Every opportunity, invitation, and distraction carries a hidden cost because time and energy are limited resources. When you constantly say yes to everything that keeps you comfortable, you quietly say no to the future you are trying to build. Discipline is the ability to protect your priorities even when easier options are available. Over time, your direction becomes clearer because your actions consistently reflect your values. You stop comparing your progress with others because you understand that every meaningful journey unfolds differently. You stop chasing acceptance because purpose becomes more important than popularity. As the years pass, the temporary loneliness you once feared is replaced by deep self-respect because you know you remained faithful to your vision. By protecting your direction more than your need for company, you create a life guided by conviction instead of convenience. Discovering that the people truly meant to walk beside you will respect the path you have chosen rather than asking you to abandon it for the sake of temporary comfort. Learn to become your own source of motivation because relying entirely on outside encouragement places your future in the hands of circumstances you cannot control. Human nature naturally responds to praise, recognition, and support. When people believe in you, your confidence often increases. When someone encourages your efforts, difficult work feels a little easier. These experiences are valuable, but they are also temporary. There will be seasons when the encouragement disappears, when your progress goes unnoticed, and when the people who once applauded your efforts become silent. If your determination depends only on external motivation, those quiet seasons will feel impossible to survive. This is why lasting success begins with learning how to inspire yourself when no one else is there to do it. Self-motivation is not about feeling excited every day. It is about remembering your purpose even when your emotions change. Motivation naturally rises and falls because emotions are constantly influenced by circumstances. Some mornings you feel energized, while on others you may feel uncertain or discouraged. If you only act when inspiration appears, your progress will always be inconsistent. Human psychology often seeks immediate comfort, encouraging you to postpone difficult tasks until you feel more prepared. Yet discipline teaches a different lesson. It reminds you that action often creates motivation rather than waiting for motivation to create action. The simple act of beginning a task frequently produces the momentum needed to continue. Every time you choose to work despite hesitation, you strengthen your ability to depend on yourself instead of your emotions. Becoming your own source of motivation also requires building a clear sense of purpose. People who understand why they are working toward a goal remain committed far longer than those who simply chase temporary excitement. Purpose gives meaning to sacrifice. It transforms ordinary effort into a step towards something greater. Whether you are learning a new skill, rebuilding your life after disappointment, improving your health, or pursuing a meaningful dream, your purpose becomes the quiet voice that reminds you to continue when immediate results are absent. Human nature often compares personal progress to the achievements of others, but comparison weakens self-motivation because it shifts your attention away from your own journey. Someone will always appear to be moving faster, achieving more, or receiving greater recognition. Instead of measuring yourself against others, measure yourself against the person you were yesterday. Every small improvement becomes evidence that you are moving forward, even if no one else notices. This mindset creates confidence because your progress is no longer dependent on competition, but on consistent personal growth. Self-motivation also grows through the promises you keep to yourself. Each time you complete a task you plan to do, you strengthen trust in your own character. Every disciplined decision tells your mind that your words have value. Over time, this trust becomes one of your greatest strengths because you no longer need someone else to convince you that you are capable. You already possess proof through your own actions. Relationships improve because you stop expecting others to carry your emotional energy. Professionally, you become dependable because your work continues whether recognition is present or not. Personally, you develop resilience because setbacks no longer destroy your determination. By learning to become your own source of motivation, you create a foundation that remains steady through success and failure alike, allowing your purpose to guide your actions, your discipline to sustain your progress, and your confidence to grow from the quiet certainty that you can continue moving forward even when the world is silent, and the only voice encouraging you is your own. The life you want begins when you choose progress over attachment, because one of the greatest obstacles to personal growth is not a lack of ability, but an unwillingness to release what no longer belongs in your future. Human nature forms deep attachments to people, places, routines, and identities because familiarity creates emotional comfort. Even when those things are no longer helping you grow, they can still feel impossible to leave behind. The mind often confuses what is familiar with what is necessary, convincing you that holding on is safer than moving forward. As a result, many people remain trapped in situations that quietly drain their energy, limit their potential, and prevent them from becoming the person they are capable of becoming. They continue investing in relationships that have already lost mutual respect, stay in environments that no longer challenge them, and repeat habits that produce the same disappointing results year after year. They know change is necessary, but attachment whispers that letting go will be too painful. What they fail to realize is that refusing to let go often creates a much deeper form of suffering because it keeps them tied to a version of life that has already reached its natural end. Progress requires movement, and movement always demands that something be left behind. A traveler carrying unnecessary weight cannot move as freely as someone willing to release what no longer serves the journey. The same principle applies to personal growth. Every meaningful step forward requires the courage to loosen your grip on something that once felt essential. Sometimes it is an outdated belief about yourself. Sometimes it is the need to receive approval from people who never truly understood you. Sometimes it is resentment towards someone who hurt you years ago. Sometimes it is the fear of failure that convinces you never to begin. These invisible attachments often become heavier than any physical burden because they influence every decision you make. Human psychology naturally seeks certainty, even when that certainty creates unhappiness. This is why people often choose familiar discomfort over unfamiliar possibility. Yet every significant transformation begins the moment you decide that your future deserves more attention than your past. Choosing progress over attachment does not mean forgetting meaningful experiences or pretending that loss never mattered. It means honoring what those experiences taught you without allowing them to control the direction of your life. Every challenge, every disappointment, and every ending carries a lesson, but lessons are meant to guide you forward, not keep you standing still. As you begin releasing what no longer serves you, your energy gradually shifts. Instead of spending your days trying to recreate what has already ended, you begin investing in what can still be built. Relationships become healthier because they are based on mutual growth rather than emotional dependence. Your work improves because your attention is focused on developing your abilities instead of dwelling on missed opportunities. Your confidence becomes stronger because each decision to move forward proves that you are capable of adapting to change. Over time, you discover that freedom is not found by holding on more tightly, but by learning what deserves to be carried and what must be left behind. The life you have been hoping for has always existed beyond the attachments that keep you standing still. The moment you choose growth over fear, purpose over comfort, and progress over the weight of the past, you begin creating a future shaped by intention rather than regret, proving that your greatest strength is not your ability to hold on forever, but your wisdom to let go when doing so opens the door to everything you were meant to become.